You stayed. You tried. You gave everything you had. And they made you feel crazy for even wanting basic love back. Here is the thing nobody tells you about avoidance. They do not suddenly start valuing you because you are patient. They do not wake up one morning and think, wow, this person has been so understanding, let me finally show up. That is not how this works. That is not how any of this works. And if you have been waiting for that moment, I need you to hear this right now, because what I am about to share could completely change the dynamic of whatever you are walking through. There is one thing, just one, that shifts the entire power structure with an avoidant. And most people never do it because they are too afraid of losing what little they already have. But here is the truth. You are already losing it. You have been losing it slowly, quietly, for months, maybe years. The question is not whether you will lose this. The question is whether you will leave with your dignity or without it. Stay with me for the next few minutes, because by the time we are done here, you are going to understand exactly what is happening inside the mind of an avoidant. Why walking away is not just an emotional decision, but a psychological one. And how to actually do it in a way that works. Not for them, for you. Before we go any further, if you have been feeling unseen in your relationship, if you have been the one always reaching, always trying, always wondering if you are asking for too much, drop the word seen in the comments right now. Just that one word, seen. It tells me you are here. It tells me you need this. And honestly, it helps this channel more than you know. We are working toward 2,000 subscribers and we are not close yet. So if this already feels like something you needed to hear, subscribe. It costs you nothing, and it might just be the thing that keeps you coming back when you need it most. Now let us get into it. Let me paint you a picture. You are in something with someone. It might be a relationship. It might be a situationship. It might be something in between that does not even have a name yet. And this person, they are not cold all the time. That is what makes it so confusing. Sometimes they are warm. Sometimes they are present. Sometimes they make you feel like you are the only person in the room. And then, without warning, they pull back. They go quiet. They become distant. And you, naturally, reach out. You check in. You ask if everything is okay. You try to bridge the gap. And the more you reach, the further they go. Sound familiar? That cycle, that push and pull, that hot and cold, that is not a coincidence. That is not random. That is a deeply rooted pattern that lives inside what psychologists call an avoidant attachment style. And understanding it is not about labeling someone or diagnosing a relationship. It is about understanding the mechanics of what is happening so you can stop being confused by it. Here is what an avoidant is experiencing at the core level. Connection feels dangerous to them. Not intellectually, but emotionally. Deep in their nervous system, closeness triggers anxiety. Vulnerability feels like a threat. Depending on someone feels like handing a weapon to the enemy. This is not something they decided. This is something that was built into them, usually in childhood, usually through experiences where needing someone led to disappointment, rejection, or emotional unavailability from the people who were supposed to love them most. So what did they learn? They learned to self-protect. They learned to keep people at arm's length. They learned that staying a little detached meant they could not get hurt. And they got very, very good at it. Now here is where it gets complicated for you. Because you come in. You are warm. You are caring. You are emotionally available. You show up. And at first, that is actually attractive to an avoidant. Someone safe, someone who will not run, someone who gives a lot and asks for little. But then something starts to shift. The more you care, the more threatening your care becomes. Because the more you care, the more power you have to hurt them. And instead of leaning into that, their system does what it always does. It retreats. So they pull back and you move closer, and they pull back further and you try harder. And somewhere in that cycle, you lost yourself. You started measuring your worth by their response to you. You started editing who you are to make them more comfortable. You started shrinking. And the tragedy is, the more you shrank, the less they respected what was standing in front of them. This is the hardest truth. Avoidants do not respect doormat energy. They are not moved by how much you sacrifice. They are not impressed by how long you wait. In fact, the more available you are, the less valuable you seem to their nervous system. Not because you are not valuable, but because anything that is always there, always accessible, always accommodating, stops feeling precious. It starts feeling like furniture. And nobody fights to keep furniture. You become the safe option. And safe, to an avoidant, means unthreatening. And unthreatening means they do not feel the urgency to step up, show up, or do anything at all. This is why walking away works. Not as a tactic, not as a game, not as a manipulation, as a reality check for their system. When you walk away, something unprecedented happens in the mind of an avoidant. The thing they always feared but could not consciously acknowledge, losing you, becomes real. And suddenly, real loss feels very different from imagined closeness. Imagined closeness was the threat. Actual loss is the wake-up call. But here is what most people get wrong about walking away. They think it is about sending a message. It is not. It is about building a life that does not need them in order to be full. It is about reclaiming yourself so completely that whether they come back or not becomes a secondary question. The primary question becomes, do I actually want them back? Let me walk you through this properly, because walking away is a process. It is not a dramatic exit speech. It is not a last text designed to make them feel guilty. It is not silence that you secretly hope they will break. Real walking away has several layers, and most people skip the most important ones. The first layer is clarity. Before you go anywhere, you have to get clear on what you have actually been living in. Not the highlight reel, not the good days, not the moments that gave you hope. The full picture, the pattern. How long has it been like this? How many times have you brought up the same need? How many times have you been promised change that never came? How many times have you cried yourself to sleep wondering what was wrong with you when nothing was wrong with you? You need to sit with the real version of this relationship, not the one you hope it becomes, the one it actually is right now. This is painful. It is supposed to be, because clarity often hurts before it heals. But you cannot walk away from something you are still telling yourself a story about. You have to see it for what it is before your feet can move. A lot of women especially, and this matters because so many of you watching this have been in exactly this place. A lot of women have been conditioned to believe that if you just love someone enough, if you are just patient enough, if you are just understanding enough, they will eventually come around. You have been told that your love is the thing that will save them, that your consistency is what they need, that if you just hold on a little longer, the breakthrough is coming. I want to say this gently but clearly. That story is costing you years of your life. That story is the thing keeping you in something that is not working and calling it hope. Hope is a beautiful thing, but hope without evidence is not hope. It is avoidance of a different kind. It is you avoiding the truth of what this actually is. So the first thing you do is stop telling yourself the story that is not backed by consistent reality. And instead, you start cataloging what is real. Real behavior, real patterns, real frequency of connection versus distance. You look at the evidence the way a detective would, without emotion, just facts. And often when you do that, the picture becomes very clear very quickly. The second layer is decision. Once you have clarity, you make a decision. Not a threat, a decision. There is a massive difference. A threat is, if you do not change, I am leaving. A decision is, I am leaving. Full stop. One is still about them, The other is about you. And this is where most people fall apart. Because making a real decision means accepting that you might lose this person entirely. It means sitting with the grief of that before it even happens. It means choosing yourself even when part of you is desperate to choose them. This is also where avoidants can sense the difference, because they are actually extraordinarily perceptive about energy. They read people well. That is partly how they have survived. They know when you are issuing an ultimatum versus when you are actually done. They can feel whether there is still a hook in you that they can pull. And if there is, they will pull it every time. So the decision has to be real. It cannot be strategic. It cannot be a performance. It cannot be you hoping they will stop you at the door. It has to be a genuine arriving at the place where you know you are worth more than this. And that brings me to something really important. Walking away only works when it comes from a place of self-worth, not desperation. Those two things feel similar from the inside, but they look completely different from the outside, and they produce completely different results. Walking away from desperation looks like this. You are exhausted. You are at your limit, you finally snap, you send the big emotional message, you give the tearful speech, you need them to understand how much they have hurt you, you want them to feel the weight of what they are losing. And there is a part of you, a big part, that is doing all of this, hoping they will finally see the light and choose you. That is not walking away. That is a louder version of reaching. It is still about them. It is still outsourcing your worth to their reaction. Walking away from self-worth looks completely different. It is quiet. It is measured. It is almost unnervingly calm because it is not coming from pain alone. It is coming from a decision that has been made from the inside out. It says, I know what I am worth. I know what I need. This is not providing that. So I'm going to go and build something that does. And that is not a threat to them. It is a truth for me. That energy, that quiet certainty is the most powerful thing you can bring to this moment. Because an avoidant has never seen that from you before. They have seen you cry. They have seen you beg. They have seen you shut down and then come back. But they have never seen you simply, quietly decide that you are more important than their comfort. And it stops them in their tracks. Not always immediately. Sometimes there is a delay. Sometimes the avoidant lets you go and there is a period of silence. You might be in that silence right now, and it is brutal. Do not let anyone tell you it is not. The silence after leaving an avoidant is one of the loneliest feelings there is, because you spent so long trying to be close to them, and now the distance is absolute. But here is what is happening in that silence on their side. Remember, the avoidance fear is not commitment. Their fear is losing themselves to connection. Their fear is vulnerability. Their fear is need. But when you leave, you actually remove the thing that was triggering all of that. You remove the pressure. You remove the closeness that felt like a threat. And in the absence of that threat, their attachment system starts doing something new. It starts missing you without fear. Because you are no longer a threat to their independence. You exercised yours. And the irony of it is almost too perfect. The moment you stop needing them is the moment they start needing you. Not always, but often enough that this pattern is documented, discussed, and recognized by everyone who has ever loved an avoidant. But here is where you have to be iron-willed. Because when they come back, and they often do, they will not come back with a parade. They will not come back with a grand gesture. They will come back subtly. A text that seems casual, a comment on a photo, a check-in that is innocent enough to give them an exit if you respond wrong. They are testing. They are dipping a toe back in while keeping one foot on the exit. And if you rush toward that, if you meet that casual text with all the emotion you have been holding, if you make that moment about everything that happened between you, they will retreat again, immediately. What do you do instead? You match their energy, not because you are playing games, but because you have actually changed. You are not the same person who was waiting by the phone anymore. You have been building something. You have been working on yourself. You have been finding your way back to who you were before this relationship made you smaller. So you respond from that place, calm, interested but not urgent, present but not desperate. And that is disorienting for an avoidant in the best possible way. Because they came back expecting to find the version of you that needed them. And instead they find someone who is doing fine. Someone who is warm but not waiting. Someone who has a life that looks full. That is attractive to literally everyone. But for an avoidant, it is almost magnetic. Because now you are safe again. Not because you are available, because you are whole. Now, I want to talk to you about the thing that happens after you walk away that nobody prepares you for. You are going to second guess yourself, deeply, multiple times a day in the beginning. You are going to replay every good moment and wonder if you gave up too soon. You are going to get that casual text from them and feel your whole body light up like it is Christmas morning. You are going to hear a song or smell something familiar and suddenly miss them so much it feels physical. This is not a sign that you made a mistake. This is grief. And grief is not evidence that you should go back. Grief is evidence that you loved something. That is allowed. That is human. That does not mean you made the wrong call. What helps in this period is radical honesty with yourself. Every time your brain starts the story, maybe if I had just been more patient, or maybe I gave up too early, or maybe they just needed more time. You have to bring yourself back to the pattern, not the moments, the pattern, the consistent, repeating, documented pattern of what this looked like over time. Because our minds are very good at selecting the moments that support the story we want to believe. And when you are in withdrawal from an avoidant, and yes, it does feel like withdrawal because the intermittent reinforcement they give is neurologically similar to what happens in gambling addiction, your brain will hunt for reasons to go back. It will find every green flag and hold it up. And you have to be the one to say, yes, that was real. And the full pattern is also real. And I am holding both without letting one cancel out the other. This is the work. This is the unsexy, unglamorous, quiet, daily work of rebuilding your inner standard. And speaking of standards, let me talk about that for a moment. Standards are not ultimatums you give other people. Standards are decisions you make for yourself about what you will participate in. And most people who end up in avoidant dynamics have one thing in common. Their standards existed on paper, but not in practice. They said they needed communication, but they stayed when communication was absent. They said they needed consistency, but they stayed through weeks of silence. They said they needed to feel like a priority, but they kept showing up as an option. The gap between stated standards and lived standards is where avoidants live. Because an avoidant will always find exactly the edge of what you will actually accept. Not the edge of what you say you need, the edge of what you prove you will tolerate. So when you walk away, you are not just walking away from a person. You are walking away from a version of yourself that accepted less than she deserved. You are closing the gap between what you say you need and what you actually live by. And that is transformative. Not just in this relationship, but in every relationship that comes after. Because here is the thing about doing this work. Genuinely doing it. Not just as a tactic to win someone back, but as a real commitment to your own growth. You become someone who is different at the other end. Someone who knows herself more completely. Someone who can feel the pull toward the familiar chaos of an avoidant dynamic and choose differently. Someone who can recognize the early signs before she is 3 years in and heartbroken. That version of you is worth more than any one relationship. That version of you is the goal. And I know that might sound abstract when you are in the middle of the pain, When you are lying awake at 3 in the morning wondering if they are thinking about you. When you are drafting texts you will not send. When you are looking at their social media trying to read their silence. When everything in you wants to just reach out, just once, just to see. So let me give you something concrete to hold on to in those moments. Every time you want to reach out, do something for yourself instead. Not to punish yourself, not as a distraction, but as a deliberate act of self-investment. Go for a walk, call a friend, write in a journal, work on something you have been putting off. Do something that returns energy to your life rather than draining it towards someone who is not currently choosing you. And do this consistently, not because it will definitely bring them back, but because whether they come back or not, you will have built something real in the meantime. You will have built momentum in your own life. You will have filled the space that their absence created with things that actually serve you. And here is what happens. After enough time doing that, something shifts. The desperation starts to lift. Not because you stopped caring, you might still care, but because your life started mattering more to you. Because you started mattering more to you. And from that place, everything looks different. You can assess the relationship more clearly. You can see whether someone who has come back is actually showing up differently or just showing up. You can feel the difference between real change and temporary recalibration. Because you are no longer starving for crumbs. You are full. And from fullness, you make very different decisions. Let me also speak to something that I think is particularly important for women in their late 30s, 40s, and 50s who are navigating this. You have been doing this a long time. Not necessarily this specific relationship, but this kind of love, this giving, this carrying, this managing of other people's emotional worlds. You have been told in 100 different ways that love requires sacrifice. That if it is worth having, it is worth fighting for. That good things do not come easy. That patience is a virtue. And all of those things have some truth, but they have been used against you. They have been woven into a story that keeps you in dynamics where you do all the work and get very little back. And at this point in your life, with everything you have already navigated, everything you have already survived, you do not have time for that story anymore. You actually know yourself. You have lived enough life to know what you need. You have been through enough to know the difference between something that is hard in a growing way and something that is hard in a diminishing way. This, what you are walking through with this person, this is the second kind. And your instincts know it. Your body knows it. You just keep overriding it with hope. Stop overriding it. Trust the version of yourself that already knows. She has been trying to get your attention. She has been whispering in the quiet moments, in the sleepless nights, in the gut feelings you explained away. She is not wrong. She never was. Walking away from an avoidant is not giving up on love. It is not bitterness. It is not shutting yourself off. It is the most profound act of self-love you can commit to. It is saying, I believe that I am worth a love that does not require me to convince someone to give it to me. I believe that real love is not this hard in this way. I believe there is something better available to me, and I am making space for it. That belief, if you can get there, is the thing that changes everything. Not just what happens with this one avoidant person. Everything. The way you enter the next conversation. The way you respond to the first sign of someone pulling back. The way you hold your own worth in the face of someone testing your boundaries. The way you carry yourself through the world. Because you changed from the inside. And that is not a tactical shift. That is a life shift. So here is what I want you to take away from everything we have covered today. The avoidant in your life is not broken beyond repair. They are a person with deep wounds that cause them to protect themselves in ways that hurt the people around them. That is not an excuse for their behavior, but it is a context for it. And understanding the context helps you stop taking it personally in a way that erodes your self-worth. Their distance is not a verdict on your lovability. It is a symptom of their wiring. But, and this is the part you have to hold, your growth, your healing, your happiness, none of that can wait for them to fix their wiring. You do not get to put your life on pause while someone else figures out how to love. You are worth too much, and time is too precious for that. Walking away is not the end of love. It might actually be the beginning of the first real love you have ever given yourself. And maybe, on the other side of your walking away, they do the work. They get the therapy. They confront the thing they have been running from. They come back as someone who can actually show up. Maybe that happens. Some people do grow. Some avoidants do become secure when faced with real loss. Some stories do have that chapter. But you cannot walk away waiting for that chapter. You have to walk away for your own chapter. And if theirs happens to align with yours somewhere down the line, you will know how to evaluate that from a place of strength rather than need. That is the difference. That is the whole difference. Go build your life. Go be the full version of yourself. Go love yourself in the way you have been waiting for someone else to love you. Go do the things that light you up. Go spend time with people who pour back into you. Go remember who you were before this relationship made you question yourself. Because she is still there. A little tired maybe, a little bruised, but she is there. And she is worth coming back to. That is the real walk away. Not from them, toward her.